Is there a motion to call the meeting for May 23rd to order?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll make it.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay.
So 4 in favor, absent are Friedman, Sobey, and Tice. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
of the nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, justice.
Section 3 of tonight's agenda is public input number 1. Board of Education encourages public participation on school-related matters at public board meetings. Public input is reserved for comments related to the agenda and non-agenda items and does not require sign-up. Period for public input is unrestricted to accommodate as many comments as possible. Any group or organization wishing to address the board must identify a single spokesperson. Comments should be as brief as possible. No speaker will be permitted to speak longer than 3 minutes during public input number 1. If a member of the public wants to address the board more than once, they will wait until all members have had the opportunity to do so. All speakers are to conduct themselves in a civil and respectful manner. Obscene language, libelous statements, threats of violence, statements advocating racial, religious, or other forms of prejudice will not be tolerated. The board will not permit in public session discussions regarding concerns about individual district personnel or students. Persons wishing to discuss these matters should present their comments and or concerns to the appropriate administrator during the regular business hours. If a member of the community fails to conduct themselves appropriately or violates the rules set forth herein, the board has the right to suspend the community member's privilege to speak during public input. Persons making comments at a board meeting will address remarks to the president and may direct questions or comments to board members or other district officials only upon the approval of the president. Board members and the superintendent shall have the privilege of asking and answering questions of any person who addresses the board. The president shall be responsible for the orderly conduct of the meetings and shall run such matters and shall rule on such matters as time to be allowed for public discussion and the appropriateness of the subject being presented. The president shall have the right to discontinue any public input which violates this policy. With that, is there anybody here or online that wishes to participate in public input number 1? I don't see anybody here. Mr. Fisher, is there anybody online?
No.
Okay, with that, we will move on to section 5 of tonight's agenda, Superintendents Report.
Thanks, Brian. So I just wanted to follow up with a quick update on COVID. When we last spoke on May 9th, I presented some numbers, and there really hasn't been a significant change for the most part. Back on the 9th, the test positive rate was 9.3. It's 10.8 as of yesterday. The 7-day average was 9. Today, 2 weeks later, it's 10. There were 36 cases per 100,000 Suffolk County residents. There are now 40 cases, and there were 48 cases per 100,000 residents on a 7-day running average. That's up to 55. So there's been an increase, but the increase has stalled in terms of the quickness that the numbers are rising, and hopefully it plateaus and starts to go down. Related to that, Suffolk County did, after our last meeting, in fact, the next day, I believe, change Suffolk County's risk rating to high from medium. One of many counties in New York State to do so. The significant difference with regard to the high risk rating is that masking is recommended, not required, recommended indoors, including schools. But what you have not seen from the New York State Department of Health is a change in any of their guidance. Their last pertinent guidance was issued on April 11th, and I don't sense or anticipate that they're going to issue any guidance short term. And I think that's probably due to the fact that there hasn't been a proportionate increase in hospitalization rates and death rates as there was with previous strains. And I said that at the last meeting. So that's sort of where we're at. Even Dr. Fauci has sort of said that there's 5 phases to the pandemic. The first one, which we were in for the better part of over a year, maybe 2 years, was the full-blown phase. Then there was the deceleration phase. Then there's the control phase, which is what we're in now. And then there's an elimination phase followed by an eradication phase. And it's unlikely, given the nature of what we know about the virus, that we're ever going to eradicate it. And that we're really transitioning to an endemic kind of phase where we're going to have to learn to live with it. And that's sort of where we're at. Any questions about that?
Board members, questions for Jeff?
Just one question. Since the last meeting, have any districts, public school districts in New York State, got moved to require masks?
Not that I'm aware of, but that should not be taken as an authoritative answer. And I haven't seen it on any of the text streams that superintendents
Okay. And I haven't seen headlines about it, but I was just asking because, you know, there are other areas that are elevated, so it's interesting to see how other districts are responding as well.
The second area that I wanted to update the board on was Massachusetts Hewitt. Really nothing significant in terms of new developments other than that our architects are continuing to pursue the State Environmental Quality Review Act, the SEQR, which is known as, and they're pursuing that. The timeline is on schedule. The construction documents are being refined to be submitted to the DEC for the more formal review process. The architects have assured us that the timeline that includes a referendum to be put out to the public in mid to late September is still on schedule, and that's what we intend to do. We had hoped to partner with the library to place our referendum on their scheduled vote day, but I've communicated with the library director and they would prefer to keep that separate at this point. So we're going to be organizing, unless we hear otherwise, we're going to be organizing our own vote probably within a week or 2 of the library vote. And I'm working with Ms. Adamczyk to schedule that date. Correct?
Yes. Can I ask a question about that?
Sure.
So, logically, it seems to make sense we would want them on the same date, because to ask the public to go out and vote twice in a short period of time when it's not considered like a major budget election vote seems counterintuitive. But besides it being, from my opinion, being illogical to have them separate, what's the fiscal impact of not having them at the same time?
So the fiscal impact is that the cost of the election, ballpark, and Mr. Domchek, you can weigh in, but you shared these figures with me, is around $12,000
To run a vote,
to
yes.
run a vote. So in our offer to the library, we had offered to split that. But theoretically, hosting our own vote would cost us $12,000 versus potentially $6,000. We had shared the cost.
So if we don't share the cost, their vote costs how much? Theirs is $12,000?
I think about that, correct?
Well, there's less election workers, so there's less salary.
Yeah.
But it would save
One
more than
less
6,000
machine.
because
Correct.
you'd have the school district's 12,000 plus, let's say it costs them half.
Yeah, now I should mention that in my discussion with the library director, she did offer to, try to lessen the workload on Ms. Adamczyk. But I'm not sure to what extent Harry can relinquish those responsibilities as district clerk. But you can.
All right, so we're asking the voters to pay more money through their taxes and have to go out twice in a short period of time. I just wanted to understand that. Thank you.
Are there reasons for not wanting to do a double vote? Do we have a concrete answer on that?
The library director spoke about, in the past, there was a period of time where, in the past meaning, more than 10 years ago, there was a period of time where you sort of tried to separate the two, but couldn't really ascertain a concrete reason as to the why of keeping them separate this time.
Just a little strange because Mrs. Sage donated
Very
the park, the museum, the library, and the school. And we really should all be working together for the betterment of our community. So very disheartening at this point.
And it's a waste of money. That it just seems to be a completely irresponsible fiscal.
Okay,
I agree.
thank you.
Those were my two topics.
Let's move on to the principal's report.
So good evening, everyone. Pearson Middle High School is, I'd like to say, winding up to wind down. This is our event season, so we all feel like wedding planners. So I'll just give some updates for here till May, from May to the end of June. Just some quick highlights. Tomorrow is the Science 8 performance test for the New York State. And also tomorrow we're excited, we're finally going on an away field trip during the pandemic. So our sixth graders are going to Iroquois Springs. The advisor, Mr. Rainey, has set this up, and we're excited that the kids will have this bonding time that they haven't had in so long. Also Thursday, our junior and senior prom is happening. If you would like to come on Pearson Hill, the PTSA fabulously sponsors a pre-prom red carpet. That was tongue twisting. You can come see the kids, and it's kind of exciting to see them all dressed up and excited. And then June 1st, the U.S. History Regents with the new Next Generation Learning Standards is happening for our junior class students. And then June 2nd is our chorus concert for grades 7 through 12. So we're excited to be back on stage. Mr. Fujita did an excellent job with the orchestra concert, and they also performed at the National Honor Society, the chamber music, and it's just great to see the progression considering the pandemic loss that you would think would happen. Our kids powered through it. So that's what's going on with my high school.
Any questions from the board for Ms. Carrera? We'll save them all for Mr. Moore.
Good evening, everyone. Big day coming up on Wednesday at the elementary school. It's the 26th annual Wax Museum. This is a project put on annually by our fifth graders. And as we did last year, we're going to hold the event outside. We invite all family members as well as Board of Education members of the community to join us. There are 3 viewing times. The fifth graders will be out there at 9:30, again at 11, and in the afternoon at 1:45. They've been working extremely hard. I think, as I mentioned that last board meeting, this is really a culminating activity for the elementary school. I think it showcases all the fabulous work that goes on pre-K through 5. We're really proud of the students for the effort they've put in. We hope the members of the community can come out and support that. I want to say a big thank you to our PTA, because last week they sponsored and ran a fabulous book fair for the students. You're in the elementary school and you get a chance to come to school with some cash in your pocket and go pick out some books. Pretty much nothing beats that in the mind of an elementary school student. It was great to see the excitement on children's faces. A big thank you to the PTA. We, just as Pearson, we have a lot of great events coming up. We're looking forward to some musical showcases in the coming weeks. And once the fifth graders wrap up their Wax Museum project, they'll start preparing for fifth grade celebration, which is our graduation of sorts, and that'll be Friday, June 17th. We've been welcome to hold the ceremony back here, Pearson's grounds under a beautiful tent. So we're looking forward to that, as well as some other wonderful end of the year celebratory functions.
Any questions for Mr. Moore?
Yeah, I just want to confirm, you said at 9, 11:30, and 1:45?
1:45. Moving on to our consent agenda.
I love that.
Is there a motion for consent agenda items 7.2 through 7.22?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing nobody, Mary, please open the vote.
Mary Ann or I, if you want to go.
I'm dated in it, so I'm.
Here comes.
Okay, move it over.
Congratulations to Mr. Solo on retirement.
Christy, I have yours.
I'm waiting for it to pop up.
Yeah.
There we go.
Thank you. That's unanimous.
I'm still working.
I just want to add with Mr. Solo that besides being an art teacher for how long now in school?
But he came maybe in my second year here, so 23, 24 years old.
Right, and previous to that, he was a Board of Education member, as he used to remind me many times. And he also has been the liaison for the Village and Trust efforts, which have really embedded these wonderful programs that have cost the student population nothing, many during the summer, but brought in world-renowned artists from all over the world, really, to take our art program to the next level. So he's really participated on a lot of levels to the betterment of the students and the districts. I want to thank him for his years of service.
In soccer.
And soccer,
soccer
of course, he was a soccer
Yeah.
coach for a very long time. How could I forget that?
I'll have some comments at his retirement send-off, but he's a whirlwind of enthusiasm and ideas. He's an accomplished artist,
Yes.
and the thing I admired most about him is that he was always very kind and generous with his time, and really a good role model for the kids. So we'll miss him. Like I said, I'll have some comments for him.
Will everybody be wearing a vest? He also served on the facilities committee for a very long time.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to play practice. I just want to say that when he was coaching soccer and Nick was slide tackle and his ankle was shattered. And he brought Nick a vest to the hospital, a Peter Silver vest that still hangs in Nick's spot. Yep.
That's
So
awesome.
he definitely is a special kind of guy.
For those of you that don't have kids in the high school yet, he wears, I hope he has more than one vest because it looks like he wears the same vest every day, but it's almost like a fish and tackle vest meets an artist vest. So he's known for that attire.
Committee report. If there is an update, if not, we will table this. Is there an update from anyone that participates in the Diversity and Inclusion Committee?
I could have an update.
Great. Come on up.
Good evening, everyone. I have a few things that I wanted to share with you tonight, and that is regarding our subcommittees. We had a film event that's probably been a little over a month ago, and unfortunately, it was a poor turnout. It was held here at Pearson. Our competition was the weather. It was like the first beautiful warm weather day, which is the day that we had the event. So attendance was pretty poor. I don't think that had anything to do with the fact that it was held here at Pearson, but we will probably look at pursuing this in the future with John Tremaine Library, who collaborates with us with the film series. In the past, when we've done it with the library, we've had 14, 15, 18, up to 20 participants from the community attend. So we'll look to pursue it in that venue in the future. An update on behalf of Classroom Library Subcommittees, which is co-led by Veronica Varginez-Mora. She tells me that they're looking to pursue audio text and digital text options for the older grade levels, and feels that as independent readers, it's more of an ideal so that students can select from certain diversity and inclusion type books as part of their required reading. So that would be available through audio and digital text. And then last, Professional Development Subcommittee is on hold, and that is directly related to COVID because we were partnering with an organization that we were ready to launch with. It was put on hold on both of our parts because they were looking to do something more on a remote level. We were looking to do something more in person. COVID numbers being what they were, we were all apprehensive to commit and move forward with it because we thought the sensitive nature of the topic would be best in person. So they were apprehensive about pursuing it on that level. So hopefully that will be something that happens in the future. Because as a result of our survey that was sent out to Pearson middle and high school teachers, the standout request was the desire, the need for more professional development when they're talking about sensitive topics and books with students. They really want to be better versed having those conversations with their kids. So hopefully that's something we could pursue in the future. That's everything on my end.
Any questions or comments from board members? Thank you, Ms. Rowe.
Thank you.
Next for this evening, if there's anybody who participates in the policy committee, picture. Come up.
Good evening, Corinne here, DPS Director and Chairperson of the Board Policy Committee. So we had a pretty productive meeting last meeting. We reviewed and put forward the first read that you've approved this evening for policy 7315 and policy 64110. And in translation is the staff and student acceptable use policy. This policy was originally just one policy in our current manual, so it'll be immediately, if it's approved, when it's approved, hopefully, it'll immediately replace the current policy manual policy and then be projected into the draft policy. We received input from the Director of Technology, Mr. Fisher, and some support for review from one of our teachers. So thank you for that first read. We'll go for a second read next. Additionally, we reviewed for a second discussion and research policy number 7552, which is student gender identity, which kind of created a lot of discussion. These are head 9. So we're going to move that for another discussion. We've had a board member provide us with some good research on that and some good discussion. We'll see that in the minutes, in the next few minutes, if you want to kind of keep track of that, feel free to reach out. And lastly, the policy number 3420, the non-discrimination and harassment policy is hopefully projected for a first read for our next board policy. We'll still wait for some substitutions for vocabulary words and titles in that one. Our next meeting is scheduled for June 9th at 4 p.m.
Any questions for Dr. Muir?
No, you know what occurs to me is that before we finalize approval of a new or revised policy, I think it's helpful for somebody to articulate to the public what the change is, just so that they're aware and don't have to read the old and the new and understand that. So maybe at the next meeting.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So whatever, would you like us to kind of look at what was different from the use policies to the current recommendation?
Yeah, just so the public knows that what, why we're changing it. That'd be great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Like my space in the period.
Was just a little dated, that's what you're saying? It mentioned a lot of companies no longer in business. Yeah.
Policy or that one?
When InfoSeek was the search engine and AOL was the main provider.
Literally sent by.
I
did say my
yes.
And that wasn't even our old policy, that was the most recent.
Probably 12 or 14 years old.
Yeah.
Discussion item. We don't have any discussion items for this evening. Public input number 2. If anybody's here in person or online, that would be the time to participate in public input number 2 with the same rules as I read earlier. Is there anybody here in person? I see nobody. Mr. Fisher, is there anybody online with a hand raised or a question in the chat box?
No.
Seeing here no one, will move on to section 11 of tonight's agenda. I'm going to make a motion to convene into executive session to discuss the collective bargaining unit negotiations and contracts. If that motion carries, the board will go into executive session, and for the public here in person and online, that will be the end of our meeting. The board will come out of executive session if the motion did pass, sole purpose of concluding tonight's meeting. With that, is there a motion as I just set forth?
So
Is there a second? Is there any discussion regarding that? Okay. Mary, please open up the voting.
Mary, mine just shut itself off, so, and I'm fully charged, I don't know why, but I'm on.
Okay. That's unanimous.
All right, great. Motion carries. The board will be going into executive session. For everyone else, have a good evening. Thank you for coming.